Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers on the Xbox, on the Series X, for this remote control tutorial. That's right. So I've seen a few people ask me, and a few people have asked me privately, and a few people have reached out to me about something that I did a while ago, and is it still possible to do it, and how do you get it done so that you can control a drone, like say a little camera drone, from a control chair on a grid. So we've got a grid here, and we've got all the building blocks that we need, if we were doing this in survival, to even power a little drone. How do we get going? Well, without further ado, we're going to jump in and take a look at building a drone. Now, I have no idea what this drone is going to look like. It won't be pretty. And it will be as small as I can potentially get it, just for this particular demonstration. Now, straight away, you'll know that we've got this grid here. We've got our rotor, we've got our small grid head, our small grid blocks, and our 1x1 connector there, which used to be the ejector, which they just converted into a connector, which is a lot better. Saves having to use a mod. And we have our tower of power, which provides enough power to do what we want to do, which is our recharge our little drone if we brought it back and connected it here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to set it up so we can build a drone off this, and we're going to actually use the connector. So to get this going, all we're going to do is select our light armor blocks here, and we're going to drag a bunch of blocks. Now, of course, if you're building in survival, you're going to have to do this all manually and build the blocks one at a time and weld them up. I don't tend to do survival building apart from my survival guide save when I'm doing a tutorial. So what we want now is to pop onto our connectors, push up on the D-pad until we get to our small connector. Now I'm going to go over rotating objects again, because people tend to ask me this. How do you do it? Well, if you look at the axis of rotation here, it's horizontal, so this block is going to rotate around the red line like so. By pushing right or left on the D-pad, I will rotate this block. If I push down on the D-pad, I'm going to change the axis of rotation to vertical, which is what I want, like so. If I push again, we're going to rotate around this axis. So, blue line, rotation, red, horizontal, green, vertical. With that in place, we want to pop in a connector, but you'll see it's the wrong way round. So what we actually want to do is flip it like this. And while it's flipped, if we just pop to the back of this connector and press X, go to the control panel, you'll see it's called small connector 3. We want small connector, and then we're just going to call it drone, like so. Now we know that is our small connector on our drone. So again, while we're still connected to it, pop down into the connector and click lock. Now our connector is connected. We can select our blocks again and just remove them. We've now got the basis for a drone. And any flying vehicle in Space Engineers needs thrusters, a gyroscope, and some form of power, and a way to control it. We're not going to build a cockpit on this because it's only a small drone. So we're going to need to use a remote control block. But before that, we're going to need some kind of power. Now, you can test the power on these things as you go. I'm going to use small batteries, and I'm going to orientate the small battery like so. I'm going to use about 4 small batteries to begin with. In fact, I'm probably going to put another small battery in. This is only going to be a camera drone, but I'm already starting to think on how I want this thing to work. So I want a way of controlling this drone for a start. I'm going to need a remote control block, and the good news is on the remote control blocks now there are arrows to tell you exactly how to place it. That is the way to do it. You'll see the top arrows and the slope with the camera style lens or green light at the front. That is the way you want this remote control block to go. And on the front of that remote control block, we're going to pop a camera. Like so. So now we have a remote control block and a camera and some batteries. We're going to need a means to control the rotation of this drone. So we're going to pop in a gyroscope. We're also going to need a means to control the drone from the grid we're in, and also the grid that we're on. So we're going to pop an antenna on it. And we just need some thrusters. Now, this is Pertum. So Pertum is quite aggressive gravity-wise as well as weather-wise. So what we're going to do is we're going to counter Pertum's gravity with at least 4 of these small flat atmospheric thrusters, and just 1 for that downward thrust. And since we don't want to do too much in the way of manoeuvring, we're going to pop equal thrusters front and back. And these are great because they're half block. So much fun to use. And then we only really need left and right. Like so. And since I want to access the drone's overall control panel. I'm going to pop in a control panel. Make sure I rotate it so the circle's at the top. And then we can get into our little drone by pressing X. We can then tap the right trigger until we get to the info. Then we can move across to the name, and we're just going to call it Cam Drone, like so. Click OK, and we now know that's called Cam Drone. And we have our drone. It's got thrusters, it's got a gyroscope and antenna, and we could try and control it from the telemetry system on the suit to begin with by pressing our inventory button, pushing up on the D-pad to remote access and looking for the drone. Now it'll show up as static grid 3106 rather than camera drone, but that will change. And if we press A on it, you'll see that we can kind of begin to control it, but we can't really do much with it on the suit. So let's come out of that and we'll rectify this right now. So back to our antenna. We slap an antenna on this grid, and while we're here, we'll push the antenna range up on our grid here and the subgrid, which is denoted by the other colour. If you remember, we have a control panel on our rotor as well from last time, and so on. Now all we need is our control panel, or rather our control seat down here. And this is where you can set up for a control seat to control a drone, as long as that grid that you want to control is connected via a connector to your, say, HQ grid. You can then connect it up onto a seat like this. And how do you do that? Well, we start by getting into the drone itself. So to do that, we push up on the D-pad until we open the toolbar config and we find the remote control. We press A on that and we hit control. Now, if we push up again, we are in control of this grid. You can see the thrusters firing there. But we can't do anything with it because we can't disconnect it from the grid and we can't see through the eye of the camera. In this case, what we do is we push up again on the D-pad. This time we find the camera and we press view. Now we can see from the drone's point of view, and you can see that we are pushing and things are happening to the power bar. Now if we do this correctly, pushing down on the D-pad, we find our drone connector, small connector drone. We press A on it and we tell it to switch lock. Now if this falls when I switch lock on it, means that there's not enough thrust or the power is topping out. If not, I should have a working camera drone which I can fly from this chair. So let's just press down on the D-pad And we can see the power is topping out on the forward and on the upward. So how do we rectify that? Well, while this thing is in the air, floating about, we'll have to add to it some more power. Now, because these are half blocks and you're not blocking anything with half blocks, you could put another 4 batteries to see if that fixes the power issue. And we can quickly check that out, and we might need to rename the drone again. So let's just have a quick look. Yep, still called cam drone. So if we go to our remote access, we can now see cam drone. Press A on it. And we can sort of control it from the suit. And we are ready to lock. So now we've locked our cam drone down, back into the seat, back into the control with up on the D-pad, camera mode, unlock, and now we've got our little camera drone that we can take for a spin from the comfort of our chair. And if you look at my HQ, it's 130 odd meters. And we're going to fly off this direction. And we've got about 26 minutes of power or so, depending on what we do with this. And we can go on a little recon away from base. And we can zoom in and zoom out. And if you hold down both bumpers and push forwards and backwards on the stick, you can zoom the camera in and out. And there you go. That's your little camera drone. So you can see at a glance what's around. And with this in mind, you could make this kind of thing so that it fits onto a ship or a rover. Have a little charging port on your vehicle, and that way you can get a lay of the land or do a little bit of recon. And there you are. And when you're done with it, you can just fly it back to HQ. And you might need to use the external camera mode and dock it with your suit. You can kind of try and line up the camera, and then when you've got the camera lined up. You can sort of try and spin it round. It will get it in roughly the right place. And then when you're close enough, you can just do your final manoeuvring. It's ready to lock it in, and there you are. That's your little camera drone remote chair system. Very simple, really, once you get used to it. Very useful, and there it is. Hopefully you found that informative, interesting, enjoyable. Thanks for the likes, thanks for the subscribes, thanks for the support, and loads more to come from me. Loads more to come from Keen Software down the line as the game will continue to grow and evolve. We're in the wake of the Warfare Evolution update and the Decorative Pack 3. There's more on the way. Until then, though, stay safe, take care, have fun, enjoy the game. I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.